What happens when a superhero wants to retire, becomes injured, or, God forbid, dies? Sometimes the hero's mantle is hung up for good, but in most cases there seems to be the blasé attitude of, why let a good thing go? Why not just let someone else fill in? If done right, the result of this can be a long line of successes who are much beloved both in-universe and by readers. Look for no further proof of this than the fact that the second Ant-Man was beloved enough to be the version of the character used when he was brought into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Similarly, the second Flash, Barry Allen, became equally adored by fans and lasted far longer than his predecessor, Jay Garrick. However, for every loved version of an older hero who has successfully passed on their mantle, there have been countless short-lived or failed replacement heroes. So, I'm Ewan, this is What Culture Comics, and here are 10 comic book characters who replaced heroes and failed. Number 10. Tim Drake replaces Bruce Wayne. Of all the Robins who could have replaced Bruce Wayne and taken on the mantle of Batman, there is a strong argument to be made that Tim Drake would be the best. That's not to knock old Dick Grayson either. Dick is the best Bat Family character and was an amazing Batman from 2008 to 2011. However, even he would be the first to admit that the role never really warmed to him. His approach to fighting crime, his personality, all of it is pretty un-Batman-like in nature. Now, Tim Drake, on the other hand, he's a lot like Bruce. He's methodical, attentive, and incredibly smart, which actually should position him as a better candidate to succeed Bruce when he eventually has to retire. Only when that did actually happen in the comics, it went terribly. In Detective Comics number 966, we discover that Tim is the Batman of tomorrow, and that he uses the gun that killed Thomas and Martha Wayne to fight crime with. Talk about ruining Batman's legacy. Number 9. Captain America replaced by John Walker. When the Commission on Superhuman Activities tries to use Steve Rogers as a political tool for the US government, he quits. He sees himself as representing America's people, the ideals behind the nation, and not the vested interests of the government. John Walker, aka Super Patriot, has an ongoing beef with Rogers, believing he's out of touch with modern America, aka Ronald Reagan's America, and so he agrees to take over as Captain America. But John isn't too great in the role, and he lets his anger get the better of him and ends up beating a villain to death. Further tragedy ensues until he eventually leaves the role behind, leaving Steve Rogers to resume the mantle. John then goes on to become a US agent, and embarks on his own interesting arc that eventually results in some kind of redemption. Number 8. Wolverine replaced by Daken. In the Dark Avengers series, members of the Avengers were replaced with villains while the general public were none the wiser. Obviously, none of them live up to their namesakes, but Dark Wolverine is a particularly interesting case of failure since he is the actual Wolverine's son. Sure, Wolverine uses deadly force and has killed many times during his career, but he also seeks redemption and has a strong sense of moral integrity. Daken, like his father, has sharp claws and the power of healing, but he lacks the man's values. He joins the Dark Avengers as a cover to try to kill Romulus, the man who murdered his mother and raised him. This would be a noble fight if Daken cared a shred about his own reputation. Dark Wolverine trusts no one and uses sex and violence to manipulate people to further his means. He relishes in tearing down the legacy of his father as he tries to position himself to take on the place of Romulus. Not a good replacement by any stretch of the imagination. Number 7. Tim Drake replaced by Stephanie Brown. The third of Batman's Robins, Tim Drake, is not an orphan. When Tim's very much alive father finds out his still a minor child has been running around fighting crime with a strange man, he puts an end to that rather quickly. So, that means time for a new Robin. Stephanie Brown isn't new to crime fighting, originally she was the spoiler. This is how she met Tim Drake and the two soon started dating. Stephanie ends up taking up the mantle of Robin because she wants to get back at Tim Drake. Why? Because she thinks he's cheating on her? He isn't. Batman's reasons are just as selfish. At least according to Alfred, Batman seems to be using her as a way to lure Tim back into the superhero life, so this is just messy all over. Number 6. Peter Parker replaced by Otto Octavius. A near-death Dr. Octopus swaps minds with Spider-Man so that Peter Parker will die instead of himself. It turns out OTTO Octavius is actually sharing Spider-Man's body with part of Peter Parker's conscious, so the villain feels driven by Peter's sense of responsibility. This makes things a bit weird. Despite having somewhat questionable moral values, Otto wants to be a better hero than the now dead one, which is why his series is called The Superior Spider-Man. Otto genuinely does try to do good, but he does good in the way that makes sense to a villain. He publicly murders Massacre, brutally attacks criminals way past the point of what is necessary, and blackmails the mayor for using him to murder Smythe. All the while, Otto is pretending to be the real Spider-Man, which causes confusion to all of those around him. Over the course of his crime fighting, Otto falls in love with Anna Maria Marconi. Anna is eventually kidnapped and held hostage. The new Spider-Man realizes that he won't be able to save his lady love. He accepts that he isn't the superior Spider-Man and allows Peter to take back control of his body so that he can save the day in style. Number 5. Ant-Man replaced by Eric O'Grady. The first Ant-Man was a brilliant scientist who genuinely cared about justice. The second Ant-Man was a reformed thief who grew into his role. Then came Eric O'Grady, aka the irredeemable Ant-Man, and no, that is not exaggerating things at all, this guy is a total piece of crap. Eric O'Grady isn't just generally an ass, he's specifically abusive to women. He used to sell naked pictures of his then girlfriend to men at work. Later, he tried to pressure his dead friend's girlfriend into having sex in front of the man's grave. When that doesn't work, he slowly wears her down, quickly ditching her after they sleep together, so yikes, Marvel, yikes. But if you think that wearing the Ant-Man costume would improve him, it certainly doesn't. He pressures a woman he saved into going on a date with him to show her gratitude. Despite her lack of interest, he tries to get into her pants anyway. After she asks him to leave, he shrinks down with his Ant-Man suit and sneaks back into her house and serial killer style watches her in the shower. Man, are we sure this guy isn't Norman Bates? Number 4. Iron Man replaced by Teen Tony. In Avengers Time Slide, Tony Stark is revealed to be evil. The Avengers go to the past to bring back his younger self to be Iron Man. Teen Tony's parents end up crushed by debris during an Avengers battle, which is super lucky for the heroes because now the young genius has no reason to stay in the past. Once in the future, Teen Tony is attacked by the original Iron Man. He is so angered by his younger self's general bravado that he nearly fatally stabs the kid in the chest while screaming, "I won't let my life happen again!" Teen Tony survives. He continues to casually fight a little crime, but mostly he enrolls in university and decides to live on campus. Tony gets drunk with some students and they break into a museum to steal art. Naturally, he's caught and arrested. Once Tony's bailed out, he goes straight to another party. A fire breaks out and Tony accidentally puts one rescued girl next to some gas canisters. Then he uses his suit to ionize the oxygen to put out the flames, which ends up blowing up the whole building. Miraculously, his friend survives, but it goes to show why a cocky, untrained teenager who was recently traumatized by the death of his parents probably wasn't the best choice of replacements for Iron Man. Number 3. Wonder Woman replaced by Artemis. In the Challenge of Artemis, Diana's mother sees a vision of Wonder Woman's death, so Hippolyta creates a rigged contest for a new ambassador. Artemis wins, and has no idea she's been set up to die. Artemis lacks the empathy that defines Wonder Woman and needs a PR firm to help her piss-poor public image. While being filmed at a women's shelter, she shows her stellar diplomacy skills by berating a domestic abuse victim for not fighting off her abuser. Clutching at her baby and toddler, the woman explains that if she tried, the man would have killed her and the children would have starved. Artemis responds with the following piece of wisdom. Good, better they starve than have a mother who is a parasite and a coward. Not very on brand for Wonder Woman, it must be said. Number 2. Batman replaced by Jean-Paul Valley. When Bruce Wayne is attacked by Bane in Batman number 497, it's not just his back that is broken, but his confidence as Batman. In despair, Batman asks Jean-Paul Valley to take over protecting Gotham, not as the man's normal superhero counterpart of Azrael, but in the Bat's own suit. Jean-Paul lacks Batman's sensibility and care for civilians, doing things like bungling a hostage situation by instigating a fight against armed villains while fleeing children are in the line of fire. Soon, Jean-Paul ditches Robin and goes on increasingly bloody rampages. It's as if Jean-Paul Valley looked at all the worst stereotypes of Batman, paranoia, issues working well with others, vigilante justice, and just went running with those. Bruce eventually recovers and lays the smack down on Jean-Paul, but one can't help but feel they both share the blame for this particular replacement. And number 1, Superman replaced by a bunch of people who claim to be him. After Superman's death, he was replaced by 3 different characters who claimed to be Superman: a teen, a cyborg, and a visor-wearing version of the now-dead hero. There is a 4th hero who steps into the scene at the same time, Steel. He never claims to be Superman or tries to replace the hero, which is probably part of why he does the best job of living up to Superman's legacy. The other 3 though, they all fail in totally different ways. Superboy has a big mouth and an even bigger attitude. He wants to do good, but he lacks the wisdom and experience of the man he shares DNA with. The visor-wearing Superman, i.e. the Eradicator, so 90s, spits in the face of the real Superman's goal to use violence only as a last resort. He has no qualms killing. When confronting an unarmed, non-violent criminal in the process of robbing a bank, the Eradicator crushes the man's arms just because he can. Then we have the Cyborg Superman, who used to be Hank Henshaw, an astronaut whose crew and wife died due to a convoluted series of events that started with a solar flare accident he believes was caused by Superman. Cyborg Superman seeks revenge for the death of his wife by doing all he can to sully the dead Superman's good name. And that was our list on superhero replacements that totally failed. Let it serve as a solemn warning in case anyone tries to replace me. Wahahaha. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and to head back on over to whatculture.com/comics for more news, lists, and articles like this every day. As always, I've been Ewan, and I'll see you next time. Bye!